Welcome to Mystara for the last of the Creature Crucible remasters, as tonight we're revving up the Epilady and howling at the moon while we dive into Night Howlers. The one with the Werewolves and all the other lycanthropes. The one with the reputation of being incredibly complex and almost unplayable because of that. The one that gave DMs, astronomers, and mathematicians headaches trying to figure out how to divide up the XP. It's the hardest of the Crucibles to find, but definitely the least played. I'm Mr. Welch, and today we're going to find out who's a good boy. Night Howlers was the fourth and last of the Crucibles, written by Anne Dupuy, with the cover by Fred Fields and interior art by James Crabtree. I made sure to pronounce your name right this time, Anne. It was published in '92, right about the time TSR was ending the BECMI line in favor of second edition. After this book, there was just some Hollow World adventures, the Champions of Mystara box set, and the Thunder Rift line. And that was it. The last book published was the Red Cover Creature Catalog in 1993, then BECMI was no more. Night Howlers was the last actual sourcebook for the known world published for this game line. That's a hard fact to swallow. The book is the standard Crucible layout with a 32-page and a 64-page guide. But unlike the other three Crucibles, the 32-page guide is not for adventurers, but a player's guide explaining the rules on running lycanthropes. The 64-page guide is even more rules on lycanthropes for the DMs to deal with. It's the only Crucible that extends its timeline past Wrath of the Immortals, making it one of two BECMI books set after that box set, with the Millennium Scepter being the other. Night Howlers is known for being the crunchiest Crucible published by a large margin. Sea Peoples gave you several pages on swimming. Tabellista filled out quite a few pages on air combat. Night Howlers is about 2/3 rules for running lycanthropes, with some information on the new Glantrine Principality for the majority of the fluff. Might as well jump into the reason why this book has the reputation for being complicated. You have to split your experience points between your were form and your human form. Remember, demi-humans die from lycanthropy. They don't turn into werewolves, werebears, or anything else. They turn into corpses. You pick your human class, and then you add a were form. When you are in human form, you gain human XP. During the full moon, you gain lycanthrope XP. If you want to make your DM's head explode, play a merchant or merchant prince class from Darrakin or Minrathad and split your XP 3 ways between all your classes. Of course, if you do that, your DM will probably make your head explode. Another problem is, if you think you're going to make your Viking warrior a werebear at level 1, you're going to be disappointed. As disappointed as you were waiting for Bjorn to actually do something badass in the Hobbit movie. Come on, Jackson! Bjorn in the book kills his way to Bolg, slaughters him and his bodyguard, turns the tide of the Battle of the Five Armies practically by himself, and the best you can do is give us 29 seconds of him being airdropped by an eagle and just playing bumper cars with mooks? And that's the extended cut! I have not been that disappointed with a movie since they killed Prowl off in the opening minutes of Transformers. First Transformer I ever owned. Still not happy with either movie. The issue is all lycanthropes gain their abilities slowly as you level up the were form. Until you hit 9th level, you don't get the cool hybrid form. You just turn into a larger version of your animal form. Great if you're a boar or a bear, not as exciting to spend the whole night as a giant rat because then you have to deal with first level adventurers constantly trying to kill you so some guy they just met will pay them 5 gold pieces. You're going to spend a lot of time running around on all fours until you get enough XP to earn the cool howling form. And this is still splitting your XP with your normal class. You don't level up normally, as you have to reach normal were creature status first. These are your negative levels you have to pay off before you hit level 0. There's 3 negative levels, listed as Cub, Whelp, and Scamp, or levels -3 to -1. Abilities you have to earn is being able to transform at night rather than a full moon, and the only moon that counts is Mystara. The invisible moon doesn't affect lycanthropes in any way, even if they can see it. You get this ability when you're a Scamp. Your weapon immunity starts early at Whelp level, letting normal weapons only do half damage. At Scamp, it's a quarter damage, and at level 0, it's no damage. Remember, this is only your beast form. If you turn back into human, no damage resistance for you. At level 0, you can summon a number of animals of your were form. The number summoned goes up as you level up. So if you're a level 24 werebear and the Darrakin Mask Ball blows this year, go ahead and summon 5d10 bears to liven things up a little. Of course, there's a lot of bad things that happen if you're a lycanthrope, because it's supposed to be a curse. First, your alignment changes to the standard alignment of your were form. For most, it's going to be neutral, as bears, boars, tigers, and sharks tend to be left alone and do their own thing. Foxes and seals are chaotic, but they're rarely evil, as they're more of the fun-loving chaotic variety. The rest of them are chaotic and usually evil, especially the devil swine. If you're playing a devil swine, there's a real good chance your party is eventually going to try and kill you. The were pigs are really that bad, especially with the taking all the treasure and avoiding as much work as possible. Werewolves and were-rats may try to kill you, but they usually won't try to eat you. Devil swine, not so much. In animal form, players have a bad habit of following their instincts. Bears go straight for the honey. Foxes like to play with the pretty things they find. Boars root around for food, and wolves go for the fake throw every time. Again, the character can try to avoid this behavior, but it's ingrained, at least until they get to the point where they can control their form, which is the equivalent of name level. But once you do hit name level, you get to do all the cool lycanthrope abilities you could do at character creation in Werewolf the Apocalypse. While a lot of people say the building up to that point is the exciting part, in reality, most people just get tired of gaining half XP waiting for their giant rat character to do something useful, so that they just go get cured and play the game straight. As this is a Crucible, that means there are new creatures to play, and Night Howlers adds 10 lycanthropes in the player's book, with the DM's book adding the Jaguar, which is really not for players because of their whole rip out your hearts as a sacrifice shtick they have. Obviously not everybody levels up at the same rate, but all of them have a special ability just for them, in addition to the normal lycanthrope abilities already covered. Werewolves are the first lycanthrope to be featured, which is odd as normally they're done in alphabetical order. They are the most common of the were creatures and one of the most feared. In wolf form, they search for weaker creatures and eat them. If they happen to know their victim, it makes for awkward family reunions. Their unique ability gives them a howl that causes fear. Werebats are next, and these are usually your typical vampire bats. Notice I said typically. There are were-fruit bats, and while not as intimidating and more of a pest, they at least will only be chased by people armed with brooms and rakes rather than silvered weapons. While it might be unsettling finding your neighbor Earl hanging upside down eating your apples in the middle of the night, it's probably not going to start a manhunt. Werebats get echolocation and a shriek that can shatter glass and stun people. Werebats are a small continuity issue, as Night Howlers say they are isolationists because human cultures fear them. In the northern reaches, there are multiple werebears that are honored warriors and jarls. Some northern kings had werebear bodyguards, as those touched by the bear are considered blessed. So everywhere but the northern reaches, werebears are shunned by society. And the Five Shires, the Hin get along great with them. They're beefy, even at low level, with lots of hit points and a surprisingly decent armor class. Their unique ability is that they can move through plant growth unimpeded like a druid. Boars are the surliest of all the lycanthropes. They want to be left alone. They don't even like others of their kind. They're entirely self-sufficient, able to live off the land in the most remote parts of the world. That's pretty much their entire personality. They're grumpy, they don't like strangers, and they barely tolerate friends. At least you don't have to worry about them stopping by to borrow a cup of truffles. Their ability is a powerful stomp that can cause an earthquake. Doesn't do any damage, but it can knock people over and give a penalty to hit for a small time. Werefoxes are the second most common lycanthrope, and possibly the most widespread. They're known for their love of mischief and a strong larcenous bent. They're numerous in Thyatis, even to the point of some of the wealthier ones publicly known for their condition. Of course, to the celebrity-loving Thaetians, having a werefox in hybrid form at a party is greatly desired, even if you have to hide all the family jewelry first. Werefoxes get the ability to charm humans or animals depending on their form, but both in hybrid form. Wereseals are the least numerous of all the changing breeds, simply because their habitat is the least populated. They're found along the shores of Norwald, the Helden freeholds, and parts of Alphatia. They can hold their breath for long periods of time and eventually get the ability to cast True Sight. There tends to be entire communities of wereseals just because they live in such remote areas. They aren't the best to join parties because in their were forms, they're useless on land. Weresharks are another difficult race to play in a party, because if they go full their shark on land, they die very quickly. The other problem is weresharks aren't really known for being anything more than teeth with meaty bits attached. If you're going to play a wereshark, you can't stray too far from the coast, and more than likely you're not going to leave your boat. Their ability is to churn the sea, causing victims to move at half speed and suffer penalties to hit. They're not going to be that useful in the deserts of Yelarum. Were-tigers are the big game hunters of lycanthropes. Well, technically the medium game hunters, as they view anything larger than them as not food. Granted, there's not a lot larger than them. They're somewhat rare, only appearing in Alphatia in any significant numbers. They get serious bonuses to stealth and are decent swimmers. Their special ability is a roar that locks people in place through fear for a turn, or a full 10 minutes for 5th edition players. This is a magical effect that has to be removed with spells. It's also a blanket ability. Everybody in the 180-yard cone has to save against this effect, friend or foe. Devil swine are werepigs, not boars, but piggies. They tend to exhibit all sorts of not very nice properties you don't expect from heroic player characters like gluttony, greed, slovenliness, and cannibalism. It does say that devil swine are not good choices for player characters on the last line of their description. They are far more ravenous than a regular pig. They will go through a body that weighs 200 pounds in about 8 minutes. That means a single werepig can consume about 2 pounds of uncooked flesh every minute, hence the expression, as greedy as a devil swine. They are thoroughly evil creatures with few if any redeeming qualities. Devil swine have a bad habit of their animal alignment overriding their human alignment rather than the reverse. They can always revert back to human form even in a full moon, though with some difficulty. To add to their nastiness, their primary special ability is the charm person effect like the werefox, but without the restrictions. Were-rats come in two forms, lesser and greater. Lesser were-rats are rats inflicted with lycanthropy, where were-rats are human stock. The playable were-rats are obviously the greater variety. Lesser were-rats can turn into humans during full moons, though only slightly more intelligent than rats. Greater were-rats put themselves before anyone else and will flee before fighting, especially if someone else is fighting for them. Their special ability is a built-in protection from normal weapons spell that they can cast in any form, including human. It doesn't last long, but it does keep them alive long enough to run away. Lastly, for the were-creatures, there's the were-jaguar, which is only introduced in the DM section. These guys are sadistic killers. A vicious mix of Ed Gein and Tony the Tiger, only with an Aztec vibe. They are found mainly in the tiger lands of Etrugan, where they're revered as servants of Atzantiotl. The were-jaguars appreciate all the free food and shelter lavished on them, as well as the clan being totally okay with the whole serial killer thing. To help them with their murders, their special ability is to turn invisible a few times a day. Again, probably not for player characters. Most of Night Howlers, as you can see, is devoted to just the rules on lycanthropes. Playing a were-creature requires a lot of special abilities and gives players a ton of things to keep track of. But it's not all crunch, as the book introduces the Sire Malachie de Moray, who is slated to become the first werewolf prince of Glantry. He's trying to get all the lycanthropes of Glantry to move to his new province of Malinbois, and then get support from Parliament for a new principality. He has a lot of enemies who don't know he's a werewolf, but he's closely tied to the D'Ambervilles who protect him. And he had best stay friends with the D'Ambervilles, because they have a lot of Lupin friends, and we know how Lupins react to werewolves. Actually, that raises a huge question, as a good number of the D'Ambervilles are werewolves, and several of their kin are good friends with the Lupin, including one who spent his entire curse in Castle Amber with the head of a dog. You'd think that would quickly cause a problem, but I guess the D'Ambervilles don't play by the rules. There is a small section on the Valley of the Wolves, Dumaray's barony. There's not a lot of buildings, as the population is just over 1,000, far short of the 5,000 needed to become a principality. There's a large number of werewolves here, but not enough to become a problem because the Baron enforces harsh penalties against werewolves that threaten his dream. He stocks the valley with a lot of animals for them to hunt, but man flesh is right off the menu. The actual towns and such are rather boring because of the limited population. There's some taverns and gathering halls, but those are just for locals. There isn't much to draw people to the valley. That's all part of the prince's plan. If you live in his barony, you were invited in. To outsiders, it's just a boring backwoods. To Malachie du Marais, it's the start of something wonderful. Night Howlers is an interesting concept, but mechanically it was hard to work in a lot of adventures. Not just from all the extra rules, but the split XP kept human forms well behind the rest of the party, and lycanthropic forms were just large animals for a large part of the initial campaign. Nobody wants to play a dire seal until everyone else is getting knighted and handed castles, and you're just now learning how to walk on land. The concept was similar to multiclassing in first edition, but the XP wasn't split evenly. If you had a great adventure that happened to take place during a full moon, you got nothing for your human half. And if the full moon only saw you fight a few zombies, you're not leveling up your werewolf form soon. Probably could have been a better concept with more time, but BECMI was about to die and everyone was going to second edition. Okay, Gazetteers and Crucibles are done. Time for the modules. And first up is Isle of Dread, the one that started the known world. But until then, try the Pina Colada at Trader Rick's.